Thank you, everybody. That's a bit loud. Let's do that. So as you heard, my name is Marla Chaplow. And before we get started, I will talk a little bit about myself. So I come from a very small town called Kincardine, 6,000 people. It's in Ontario. To give you a sense of where, we're about 3 hours driving west of Toronto. And not many people have heard of Kincardine. So my husband, Ron, is the current leukodystrophy ULF president, so you may have seen him around. Together, we have 3 adult children, and they're all here at the conference, which this is our family meeting that we actually have here, because 2 of them live in Quebec, and the rest of us in Ontario, so this is a little family reunion for us. Our oldest is Alexandra. She is currently studying at McGill in her final year of her PhD in neuroscience. Our middle child, Aiden, is the one that is affected, and he has MLC. Easier to say that than the long words up there. And our youngest is Liam. He is currently working analyzing charities in Canada, doing Canadian charities to make sure that your hard-earned dollars that you wish to donate to charities are going to where they should be doing. Together, Ron and I are pharmacists that work part-time. We fill a full-time position at the same pharmacy. So on to caregiving. What makes somebody a caregiver? The definition is anybody who provides direct care to another person. And that person could be, is this a bit too loud, guys? No? It sounds like it's backfiring on me here. So this person could be an infant, a young child. Like if you have children, then you're caregiving for your own kids. That person could also be on the other age extreme. It could be the elderly, where they are unable to do certain tasks for themselves. It could also involve somebody who's chronically ill or physically challenged. And often this caregiver tends to be a family member, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a friend or a neighbor that's helping out. And this caregiver could also be a paid worker. According to the CDC in the States, over 50% of caregivers are women. So that's a recent stat I picked up. I'm thinking that well before, it was a lot higher of a percentage of women, and I think men are now taking and assuming more of that role as well. About 1/3 of the caregivers provide at least 20 hours of caregiving a week. That's half of a full-time job. That's a lot of hours per week. And that demand is increasing as our aging population is increasing and also requiring more care. Why do we caregive? Well, for most of us, it's because we have to, that we don't really have a choice. If you don't do it, who's going to do it? Or perhaps in the case of siblings, they're doing it because they're voluntold by their parents to do it. Some people have a job that involves caregiving. Maybe a personal support worker, a nurse or a nurse's helper, a physician, the list goes on, physiotherapy. Many have jobs that will have caregiving duties. There are many positives to caregiving. It could make you feel very fulfilled. It could be very rewarding. The fact that you are able to help somebody complete a task that they cannot do themselves can be very, very warm for you inside. It also helps that if all of you are probably, or most of you are probably caregivers, you probably are able to do things you never thought you could do before. There are many tasks that we know how to do. Aiden, our son, has a G-tube. I know how to tube feed, I know how to do the dressings. I can actually, in fact, pull the tube out and replace it with a new one. Never thought I'd be doing that. We have lots of physiotherapy exercises that we can do. So a lot of you guys may have special tasks that you have learned because of that. For the person who's receiving the caregiving, they get a lot of positive attributes from it. They can feel very positive emotionally. You can keep their depression, because a lot of people that can't do a lot of tasks can feel very low mood-wise, and that could be very uplifting for them. That social and physical contact is very uplifting. But unfortunately, there are many negatives to caregiving. It doesn't happen all at once. It kind of slowly creeps up. But one of them is the social burden. Especially if you're caregiving for a family member, which in this whole society of leukodystrophy, it often is, and you may have to reduce your own personal activities that you enjoy because you do have to caregive. With that, you start losing your connection with your close family and friends. There's a huge financial burden that comes into play. If you're having to caregive 20 hours a week, where are you finding the hours to work full-time if you need to? In our case, when Aiden finished high school, we had to reduce our hours, and that's why we job share today, because somebody always has to be at home. With those financial burdens, then, what if you're not well equipped? Then where are you finding the extra money that you do need to pay for food, to pay for clothing, to pay for, as we know, how expensive that adapted things need, like wheelchairs are very pricey. If you need to have a lift at home, if you have to modify your home, there's a lot of financial constraints that come on with that. There's also a huge health burden, and a lot of caregivers do report a lowering of their health, a worsening of their health, I should say. There's a lot of heart disease and stroke that's attributed to caregiving. And when you think about it, all the anxiety that we have felt and our family having Aiden with us, he's an increased risk of choking, he's an increased risk of falling, and in our type of leukodystrophy, even a slight hit to the head can induce a seizure, which then is a progression of the disease. So there's always that heightened anxiety that you walk around with. For a lot of us too, if you're of an age that your parents are still alive, you might have to find yourself caregiving for your elderly parents as well as caregiving for your person at home. So caregiving can be very positive, it could be negative, but then what does it look like when it turns out to be a burnout situation? Your withdrawal from family and friends, as I mentioned earlier, it can get to a point where you have no desire to go out. Maybe you were a very involved person socially, and then you just start refusing to do anything. That reduced interest in activities becomes so severe you don't even want to invite anybody, you don't want to answer the phone, you don't do anything. With that, those feelings of helplessness, depression really sets in, that anxious moments I mentioned earlier about, when am I going to have to do, we've had to do the Heimlich on Aiden several times. So you wonder, when is that next time going to be? Thankfully now, he has a G-tube, so those episodes are far less. Perhaps your interest in food it can go either way. Maybe you're an emotional eater and you eat absolutely everything, in which case your weight will change in the negative direction. Or maybe you have zero appetite and you're not eating anything, you're not eating enough of the good stuff. Either way, it's going to be a negative result. Sleep is so important, but maybe you're not getting your rest. For those that have really depression issues, might sleep all the time. But it could also go the other way with your constant worry that you're not able to sleep. So sleep patterns that are different. When you're not eating well and you're not getting proper sleep and rest, You might find you get sick very frequently. And with that, you're also bringing an increased burden of increasing infections into your home. And maybe your loved one that you're caregiving for, you're putting them at an increased risk. This all can lead to emotional and physical exhaustion, where you're not able to do anything because you're just so tired. Overall muscle tightness. Maybe you also find that you're getting so irritable and snapping at all the people around you, and you don't mean to, but you don't know how else to react, so you just snap at them, and it's usually the caregiver that the one you're caregiving for. This may lead to feelings of wanting to harm the person you're caregiving for. Or it may also lead to feelings of wanting to harm yourself. And these feelings are real. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. But before they do result into action, you need to get help. There's also a crisis lifeline, 988. That's what it is in Canada. I'm pretty sure it's the same in the US. But make sure that you do seek help. One of the key things that we could do is to prevent ourselves from getting to that stage of burnout. One key thing that you could do is find your person. And what I mean by that is find someone that you could trust, that you can unload your feelings to, and confide in. That person can be another family member, but not everybody's comfortable speaking to that other family member. If it's not, then find a neighbor, a coworker, or a friend, and just unload your feelings. And by doing that, it could really release a lot off of your chest, and you can feel so much better. Ask for help. That is a really tough one to do, especially if you've already shunned a lot of people away because you think that you don't need help. Ron and I are so guilty of that. People would say, "Oh, how can I help?" Don't worry, we've got this. We don't need any help. Asking for help is very challenging, but it's so important. Looking after somebody that is physically challenged can play a huge toll on our bodies, physically, emotionally. So get help. And you might have to reacquaint yourself with some of those friendships that you've let die. Stay healthy. So eat right. Those chips, popcorn, well, popcorn's somewhat healthy, but chips, ice cream, eating all those, comfort foods isn't going to get you there, but salads and drink lots of water. Get your exercise. That actually releases natural endorphins, which are good antidepressants that you can get in your body. Make sure you do get your rest and your sleep. And some people actually get involved in meditation, which helps calm the mind. One of the key things as well that has helped us, once we finally became available to accept it, was respite care. Respite provides a temporary break from your caregiving duties. And respite could be a matter of an hour or two, maybe a couple of days, maybe even a couple of weeks. This respite care could either be provided in your own home, especially if your home is set up really well for your family member, or it could be that you send them out to an assisted living. It can allow you to reconnect with your partner, but it can also allow you to connect with your other family, friends that you've had to put away, that you had to put to the side. If you are caregiving for somebody other than your partner, then getting that respite time can allow you to reconnect. If you are caregiving for your partner, getting that time away can really allow you to come back feeling refreshed and give time for your partner. One of the reasons that people do avoid caregiving is for that useless emotion called guilt. And we feel it so much of our days. And you wonder, is this the right thing? And we didn't actually think, as I said several times here, we didn't think we needed help. It was just at a regular doctor's appointment for myself that my doctor said, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing great, right? We don't need help." And she said, "No, I'm going to insist in it. We're going to have caregiving coming into your home an hour and a half a day." I was like, "Well, why would I want somebody coming into my home? I could do this. Am I not doing a good job?" But I see it now. An hour and a half, they would come in, get Aiden out of bed, get him dressed, bathe him, and feed him his breakfast, and do his physio exercises. And that allowed me to do mundane tasks at home, or allowed me to go for coffee with a friend or what have you. And what we learned as well along the way is this temporary care is never going to be, I shouldn't say never, but often is not as good as what you're going to provide. And that is okay. It's okay that they get care that is not as good as what you can do. Of course, you can do it better. You're more knowledgeable, you're more trained, but that is okay. And you need to be able to forgive yourself that that's okay. Your body, your mind will thank you. And also, it allows you time. In our case, we're a family of 5. The 2 unaffected siblings will be able to get your time and attention as well. So it's not just your partner, it's other family members. So allowing that respite time allows you to spend time with people that are also very important to that you've put to the side. Aiden now lives temporarily with us and temporarily at another home. It's assisted living home. And he could come and go to that other home as he pleases. Again, guilt is one of the things that we find and we fight. Aiden loves being there, but he loves being at home more. So, I try to weigh in on, okay, how often should he be there? Because we need a break too. He's a 26-year-old man, who doesn't like to go to bed at 10 p.m., but that's when he's at home with us, that's when he's going to go to bed. Because I'm not staying up till midnight or 1 just so that he can go to bed at when a lot of 26-year-olds would go to bed. So I try to put that, hey, that's a positive thing to be up at, quote, the lodge, we call it. And he doesn't have mom harping on him when he's at the lodge. So it's a great place because it's all for physically disabled people at various ages. So he can come and go out of his room when he pleases. 24-hour nursing care, so he'd go to bed at 2 in the morning if he wants. But then when he comes home, he's so tired because he's not going to bed at a reasonable hour. He complains about the food there, which maybe I have to stop cooking good meals at home. But, we weigh in. He says he likes being there, but he loves being at home. So when his beloved Edmonton Oilers made it to the Stanley Cup, being Canadian, we're huge hockey fans, and his favorite team happens to be Edmonton Oilers, which is not even in Ontario. But, we tried to make sure that he would be home during those really important games. And, it's a very interesting dynamic that we have. So he was at home on Game 7 when the Oilers lost. So that was good for us to be there because he took it very personally, right? And there's some resources. I just pulled these because I figured most of the people would be from the United States here. Being from Canada, I didn't think that would be useful, although I see there's other Canadians in the audience today. But the bottom one is the one that I'm going to focus on. Tomorrow, we will be unveiling the ULF Ambassador Program, and that will be a resource tool for anybody that has a leukodystrophy in their family or close friends, and they are needing some resources. And it could be any resource from, I don't know where to turn to because I have leukodystrophy. I don't know where to go next. Without giving you too much away, since this is not the ULF Ambassador talk, one of the resources could be, I need help with caregiving burnout, and I don't know where to turn. So you can go to ulf.org/ambassadors, and we have 5 regions that have an ambassador, all in the US and in Canada. So we would be able to find help, and don't be shy. Ask for that help if you need it. And that concludes my talk at this point. So does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Hi, Marla. Thank you. That was really helpful. I was curious about when you said you finally accepted the fact that respite care could help you. Did you have a hard time convincing Aiden, or what was his reaction? Because I'm playing the same thing over in my head with our daughter, and when I think about introducing respite care, the idea of it, I bet she'll push back, like she typically does. But I wondered what your experience was. Was it an easy sell to Aiden?
It took some time. What I kept telling, what got us to actually do it, we got the respite care in the home first. And that was the doctor enforcing it. And that was, I didn't have much of a choice. And if I let that go, then I may never see any help again from our doctor. So we let that happen. So an hour and a half, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, especially when you live in a small town that's 3 hours away from the city. What are you going to do in an hour and a half? So I might go find some time to exercise, take our dog for a walk, go get groceries, and that was fine. The next step that we did for him to actually go on a longer term of respite, I was looking for places because Ron and I, in 2019, celebrated 25 years of marriage together. That was really important for me to say, Ron, I want you and I to go on a trip together with no kids. Up until then, the other kids were doing their own thing. We would bring Aiden everywhere, which is fine, right? But I wanted it to be just Ron and I. So I looked. I wish there was a ULF Ambassadors program. I could have looked for resources, but I looked around on my own, and there was nothing in Kincardine short of a nursing home that was filled with many late-stage dementia. That's not what Aiden would like. And it was important for me to find something that he would feel comfortable in. For the local retirement homes, is what we call them in Canada, he was too much care for them. He would need help to get out of bed. He would need help feeding himself, dressing himself, bathing, et cetera, et cetera. This retirement homes were more a place that they don't need that continued one-on-one care. I found these one couple of respites that he would stay for a night or two while we tried it out. And he would say, don't like that one, okay? We'd try to find out why. Don't like that one, okay? And then we found this one. Unfortunately, it's close to an hour and a half away from us, from where we live, and it's in the wrong direction of where we always have to go. Right. London, Ontario is where his physiotherapy is, his medical appointments, his neurologist, and that's 2 hours south of us. Where his respite place that he goes to is an hour and 20 minutes north. So it's in the wrong direction. So we do wonder, oh my gosh, we're spending so much more time on the road. Is this worth it? Yes. So I just kept telling Aiden, it's not that we don't love you, as I'm having this guilt feeling in the back of my mind, right? But what if something happens to Ron and I? And, you know, as much as his sister and his brothers say, we'll look after him, not to worry, he's a full-time job. Alexandra's studying, you know, one of the other leukodystrophies. And I don't want that on any of the siblings, right? As much as they all love each other, we're very close, we're all interconnected, I would not wish that upon any young person, because then they're going to get burnt out at a young age. So I would tell him, I need somewhere for you to be. Bron and I are getting into our late 50s. We need to know that you have a place. And I also keep mentioning to him, we call Ron's mom Baba. Can you see Baba looking after you? And he'd say, oh no, I can't see her doing a, you know, transfer and helping him do this and that. And I said, okay. Well, we're all getting to that age. When I get to that age, I'm not going to be able to look after you either. And I need to make sure you have somewhere safe to be. So I found that place, and we would use it for respite. We would use it kind of on a semi-regular basis, a couple of days every month. And then we did go on this trip for our 25th anniversary. But that was 2019. You all know what happened in the spring of 2020. So that stopped. And then month after month, I would say, okay, I'm just curious, are you going to accept any more? You know, they had one room in this facility that they would use for respite. The other 20 rooms were full-time residents. When are you opening up your respite? How can I get Aiden on the wait list? Because I assumed that it might take 10, 15 years to get accepted for him to be a resident. So I thought, let's get him on the wait list. What can we do? Let us know what you need. This was the place that he liked the most. He still prefers to be at home. But I thought, man, if this is the place out of all the ones that we tried that you like the most, let's see what we could do. And then I get a phone call that he can have a room if he wants. And I went, wow, okay. So that was in, I think, 2021, the late fall of 2021. I was not ready for Aiden to live somewhere full-time. So I said, I don't know, but then if I don't take it, when is that opportunity going to come? So I said, okay, as long as Aiden can live in both places. And they said, absolutely. So when Ron and I do have commitments, sometimes we both have to work at the same time. If the owner needs time off work, wants to take a holiday, then both Ron and I often have to work. So Aiden, I know, has a place he could be, that he's safe, someone's looking after him. So just having that eases my mind. So just, yeah, to answer that, basically, just knowing that I needed a place that was safe for him in case something happened to us.
We have a question from online, really quick. It says, is there any way of getting help in other countries? My sons and I, Luco has mamas and families in countries outside of the US and Canada. Also, I've been dealing with my son's health since he was 6 months. My son doesn't qualify for services due to his age. How do we get help for those of us with kids younger than 3? Our marriage and jobs have suffered a lot due to this.
Can we get that question posted somewhere that I can get back to that person with?
Yes, I can check. Just check with me afterward.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
So were you and Ron always on the same page with respite? Because, and if not, you know, how did you get him to see that respite was important for you? Or did you always both agree with that?
We may not have always been on the exact same page, but very closely aligned. I could say, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I do know that both of us had a huge level of guilt. And again, as I said up there, it is such a useless emotion. It doesn't give you anything. And it was me who pursued it for our 25th anniversary trip. And he was like, oh, yeah, he went along with it. But it was me who did all that. Let me look into this resource, that resource. And he was fine with it. And then I think once we did have some time, it was like, wow, this is really nice. We can sit down and go out for dinner and have a glass of wine, go see a play, whatever. And we love music. So what we love to do is go to concerts together, go to music festivals. There's it sounds really silly, but at our age, we're going to camp for 3 nights while we do an overnight music festival. So we can't do that with Aiden. And we're just really, really happy that we're both on that same page. But I can't say that we had any huge disagreement, but I kind of had to just do the work myself and take him along.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. And I'll be around all the conference if you do have a question that you would like to ask.